Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone, to this webinar, the fifth in the sequence of Future of Education. Welcome to this webinar on integrating data science in school curriculum and online learning. And my name is Navneet Sharma. I'm the Dean of Business School at the Vijayabhumi University. And in this webinar, I have with me three very distinguished guests. Let me welcome first Kishore Jaideva, who is the lead data scientist at a famous company called Reddington. They have actually revolutionized the electronic equipment sales in India. My second guest today is Ms. Annabelle Willemarin, who is the principal of Lancers International School at Gurgaon. And I have with me Dr. Venkatesh Sunkad, who is Dean of the Data Science School at Insofi School of Data Science at Vijayabhumi University. And welcome to three of you.
Thank you.
And also, I would like to welcome an equally distinguished gathering of school leaders, principals, teachers, counselors, and educators. Welcome, everybody. So, to open up webinar, let me set the context that all of us understand that data is the new currency. Data is the new oil. That is what we hear in common parlance. Data is the new oil was a phrase which was used by famous mathematician Clive Humby in 2006. But perhaps it is The Economist which made it, The Economist magazine, which made it even more famous. What I mean to say here is that our lives, our work, and school across education across the spectrum, starting from school to higher education, are necessarily surrounding around data and applications of data science. So therefore, it is extremely critical that we understand the learning ecosystem, we understand the application of data in the learning ecosystem in order to understand future of jobs and future of education. And in order to do that, I have a very, very exciting panel of three distinguished speakers. Let me begin with Dr. Sunkar, that please give us a sense for a person who may not be very much into data and data science. Give us a sense, what is data? How is it generated? And why data science all of a sudden has taken such a central place in our lives? Dr. Venkatesh.
Hey, so I hope everybody can hear me. First of all, thank you very much, Dr. Sharma, for inviting me, and thank you everybody. And I would like to really, yes, I second you saying that we have a really very distinguished panel. So that way, thank you very much for inviting me. So I think it's a very good question. What is data, right? Things like that, so before I understand, we generate data we're doing everything in our life. Let me just give you a quick example. And the best way to give you an example is, let me show you a couple of slides so that you get an idea of how data is actually generated. So basically, guys, this is a photo of, in 2005, as you know, right, every X number of years, right, they nominate a pope. The reason being, for, either the pope probably resigns or passes away. So this is something happened in 2005, where, it's actually in Vatican, and obviously today's social distancing and everything, this may sound very politically incorrect, but this was, people were waiting for the new pope to be nominated. But that's the scenario. You can see a few, what should I say, cameras and everything. Now what has happened, the same thing actually repeated in 2013. As you can see, the technology, everybody now has a camera, right? So the question is, what do you do the moment you pick, you take a picture? Every time you take a picture, this is when you start basically, sharing the picture. It could be on WhatsApp, it could be on Facebook. So every time you do that, technically you're actually generating the data. And that is the whole point of data science, that every action you do on a digital platform, either when you go and do a Google search, either you do a financial transaction, whether you buy something, you generate data. The next part of the question was, so what? I generate data. Until now, there was no reasonable way of utilizing the data to actually make some real good predictions out of it. What do I mean by prediction? How can I use the data to see what the future looks like? And that is where data science came into picture. Until that point, people were making that, but it was in a very, rudimentary fashion. Data science has actually changed the way we do things, changed the way we actually, can predict, what is going to happen. How is the, my weather patterns are going to change? What is the probability a company is going to fail? What is the probability somebody is going to get a disease? Every time you do a Google search, to be fair, 99% it's actually, the sort of data science or artificial intelligence based. There's no human actually telling you to do it. So that way data science is sort of, permulating, and as we talk about it today, we can find out, permulating in every part of our life, whether we like it or not. The next time you order a cab from Uber or Ola, actually data science is involved. The next time you open up your Netflix site, and there are recommendations for you to say, hey, this movie is for you. It is based on data science, and that's how it happens. So that at a high level is what I feel is what's happening on the data science piece of it. Professor Sharma,
Right.
I think you can
Right.
go. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's very interesting, the perspective you put to it. But let me add to this that if you can also give us a little more elaboration on the important technological milestones, so that we can have a sense of evolution, how this particular area has evolved, and how it has come to affect our lives, how it is touching our lives in such an omnipresent manner, in such a deep manner.
Good question, and a very good question. So let me again, turn my screen so that it is much easier.
I think your slide, Dr. Sunkar, your slide is not visible to us. So I think you need to do something about it. And while you show us this slide, let me ask Kishore that to give me his quick perspective as to how this data has come to touch our lives in such a deep manner. Kishore?
Can you see the slides, Dr. Sharma? I'm sorry. Can you see the slides?
Not yet. I think you need to add the presentation, which is yet not added, it seems. And once you add, you need to start the presentation in order for everybody to see it.
Oh, sorry. I thought I can do a screen share and I can do it, but unfortunately, for whatever reason.
You need to add the presentation to the slides. So, Mr. Jayadeva, if I am audible, while Dr. Sunkar is uploading the slides, can I invite you to present your perspective on the evolution of the tech space? I think Mr. Jayadeva is... Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sure, definitely. Let me talk about how the technology is changing our behaviors, both from social perspective and other perspective of our life. See, the technology change is basically have got both positive as well as negative sides. But let me highlight a few positives first. See, because of these technological revolutions, first of all, the big advantages we have got the online education, right? Especially in this lockdown situation, it has become boon for the students as well as the knowledge seekers. Today, there is a plethora of sites available for in the online learning space, be it any subject, science, technology, mathematics, management, culture, cooking, learning guitar, you name it, you have the course. The biggest advantage of this particular thing is there are no barriers here. That means there is no age limit, there is no distance limitations, travel requirements. So you can learn at your own pace and convenience. This is boon not only for the students as well as the university graduates, but for also for the working professionals who would like to hone their skills as well as add new skills to their technology stack. And the second example is the webinar that we are having is another perfect example of the technology. See, we are sitting in different parts of the country, but still be able to assemble and have a dialogue. And especially in the business scenario, I would like to highlight that, especially when you work for conglomerates and Fortune 100 companies, where the team is diversified and sitting in different parts of the world and different parts of the country, you will be able to have the webinar, you will be able to exchange the ideas, you will be able to make the presentations as well as, do the brainstorming, etc., etc. So in that way, the technology has changed a lot.
Right.
The third one is what I would like to highlight here is the people reach out is very high, especially in the social media. And it's a good news for the authors, especially. And if you've done right, you will be able to find a large set of audience. And maybe you may not be able to sell 1 million copies of your book in a day, but you can definitely reach out 1 million readers of your article or a book in a day or two. So coming to the technology stack, you all know about the Ola, Uber, and Swiggy, as Dr. Venkatesh mentioned. See, for all these companies, technology is the backbone for these such kind of companies. They effectively leverage big data technologies to churn out high volumes of data in real time. And each and every time the data science is involved, the algorithms will be running in the background so that you will be able to find the right drivers, or you'll be able to order the required food from your favorite restaurant and so on. So in that case, this kind of technology is definitely a boon for the inventors. So they can use these kind of technology stacks and become a disruptor, and also redefine the existing businesses. Some of the businesses which runs on the conventional way, okay, can be redefined by leveraging these kind of technology stacks, especially the big data area. And to share my personal experience at Redington, we leverage technology extensively. We leverage big data technologies, visualization tools such as Tableau, as well as data science techniques. And also we have the digital marketing arm as part of our department, wherein we do all the market campaigns, etc. And reach out to our partners and customers and give effective services.
Right. That's a very, very, very detailed perspective. I think that gives us a clear understanding as to how data is being currently used by the companies, by a variety of organizations, whether it is marketing or other forms of consumer engagement. Everywhere one can see data being generated. Dr. Sunkar, I think if you're able to, if I can come back to you with the presentation, your presentation on the evolution, that was the question I had posed to you. And I'm wondering if we can get back to you.
Yeah, can you see my presentation?
Not yet, not yet.
Can you see my presentation?
But I think you can go ahead without that also. So my question to you is.
Definitely. Yeah.
My question is on the evolution of the tech space and how it has come to affect our lives so deeply, very quickly.
Sure, definitely. Thank you. So there have been, basically, and this is something I think all of you must have heard. A lot of you must have heard the term Industry 4.0. But let me spend about a couple of minutes explaining to you how did we reach there and what is Industry 4.0, because everybody starts talking about it and so then how it is impacting our life. So it has to be a 4.0, there has to be a 3.0, there has to be a 2.0, there has to be a 1.0. So basically, if you look at it, in the late 1800s, the invention of steam basically created the Industry 1.0. How did steam help? The first thing, two things that invention of steam helped. The first thing was basically steam engines. Until that point, right, the producers and the consumers had to be in the same place. The steam engine, which is basically your train, basically now said the producers and the consumers don't have to be in the same place because I can move goods from point A to point B. The second industrial revolution happened is when the invention of electricity, when technically you could work 24/7. And the invention of something called an assembly line. An assembly line basically made it possible for you to actually, mass produce things. Industrial Revolution 3.0 is what we're actually living today, is basically the invention of the computers, the cell phones, which sort of led to the whole internet, social media, and things like that. And so that has actually now made not only businesses connect each other, but also people connect each other, and people could sort of collaborate and work, and a lot of data is being generated. And that is what led us to Industry 4.0, which we are stepping into, is how do I analyze that data? How do I actually use that data to basically get meaningful insights out of it? And that is what is, at a high level, is what the 4 technological revolutions that has happened, if you look at it, not just from data science perspective, but from a humankind perspective.
I think at this stage, let me now bring my third panelist, Ms. Annabelle Vilmarin, into the discussion, and let us try to understand that how a school is making sense of this omnipresent data science, online learning, how they are coming to terms with the new reality, which is rather a disrupted reality where, because of COVID-19, all of us are locked down, but the process of education has not stopped. Let us try to understand with the first-hand experience of Lancers International School. Can I invite you, Ms. Vilmarin, to give us a complete perspective of this?
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for inviting Lancers International School to this panel. I am very excited to share with you what we do at Lancers, and it's very important that we look at how the whole impact of uncertainty brings about perspectives and change in different institutions. And Lancers International School is not different. The most important part of our program is how we put together action, a cycle of reflection, choice, and action impacts our well-being, academic excellence, resilience, and mindfulness. When we had to face this dilemma of going off outside of the school and going online, we had to look at so many elements at our institution. And I just want to quickly share with you the most important elements of these, of our reflection process. The most important element is academic excellence. We want to make sure that our expectations will still be met. The study skills, the work habits of the children will still be at the forefront. We are still responsible in the assessments for written and project-based assessments. Our individual development plan for our personalized instruction in the school are still in place. So we don't want to give that out. That's still at the forefront of what we want to do. But at the same time, we also have to look at the technical skills of our teachers, the technical skills of our parents and students, because they will be involved in the e-learning, and how our community will have to work together and collaborate. Because we believe in cross-subject planning and collaborative discussions. We want our school community to be able to communicate with each other. It's very easy to do all of this inside a school building in a campus where I can just bring in, my staff, and then let's just go ahead and talk about our assessment practices. Let's go ahead and see where the children are. But there's always that barrier, Mr. Jaideva has shared, when you are outside of the school campus, because we're working with personalities that may be limited when we are online. The last one that is very important for us as well is our community engagement. We want to make sure that every member of our community is a part of this and they understand it. So we have to include our parents as a resource and our partner, and ensure that there's a sustainability of the program. We don't know what's going to happen next week. We thought we're going to be back to school on the 14th of April. But here we are, 21st of April, we're still doing our online classes. It's also important, because of the way we do our work, that our social and emotional learning is also embedded. This is now where we begin with our choices. The second element is choice. What are the different things that we can use, knowing all of those important essential elements of our classroom environment? So we had to first decide on our main platform. We know that our school is a part of Google for Education suite. And so Google Classroom became one of the first tools that we had to start with. And then our senior schools, our middle school teachers also started using Microsoft Teams, Edmodo, and our school, from early years until grade 12, we use ManageBack for communicating to our parents. So it was very easy for us to utilize all of those platforms. There's the good old email that we can also use to communicate to our parents. These platforms, we decided, should include our classes, our timetables, our resources, the content materials the teachers had to use, the class interaction and the lectures, the recordings, and submissions, and most important of all, our grades. After this, we decided on a platform to use for our live classes, because yes, we can provide the children the resources, the content materials, but we also believe in engagement. And this is one of the elements that we think diminished when we go to an online classroom. The face-to-face interaction, how we smile at the children, how we see confusion as well in their faces, may not be as evident in an online classroom than in a face-to-face classroom. So we decided to timetable our face-to-face interactions with the children. So we use Google Meet, we use Zoom, and for those children who may not be, or even families who may not be comfortable with Google Meet and Zoom, we have the good old phone calls to do that as well. It's important that we set up the essential protocols for this and have quick access portals for our parents, so it's easy for them to access us, and of course, safety. We started waiting rooms, passwords, and co-hosting throughout our face-to-face classes, so that there's somebody who would be helping the homeroom teacher as they deliver the classes. And last but not the least, we know that we also can incorporate a lot more other tools to the tools that the teachers are already using, like you've got Quiz, Padlet, Flipgrid, BrainPop, and so on. And I'm sure so many parents and so many teachers out there already use a lot of these e-learning tools. Once we've got all of that in place and we understand what is important in our classroom environment, we then had to act. And what I like about Lancers International School is we have already embedded a lot of the e-learning protocols and tools into the regular classroom before all of this happened. So that the teachers and the students are already comfortable. However, right around January of this year, there was a call for action headed by our head of school, where we had to reflect on what can happen in the next 6 months with all of these things that we are hearing around us. And so at that point in time, we sat down and we had to discuss our design protocol. And because we also do not just want to deliver the content, we also want to make sure the well-being of the children and the parents and the students are, and the teachers are embedded in our program, we developed the WARM protocol, which stands for well-being, academic excellence, resilience, and mindfulness. Right around February, we called in our teachers and we told them, come on, let's go ahead and create our platforms. What are the things that you're comfortable with? and we decided on the main platform that we are going to use. We tested it amongst each other. We had our teachers a part of a classroom, and we started timetabling our trainings. Around March, I think this is one of the most interesting part that we didn't plan. And this happens a lot, by the way. There are things that we don't plan and it just happens to us. We didn't plan for about 2 weeks of our parents' uncertainty in sending their children to the school. So we have kids that are coming to the school and there are kids that are not coming to the school. So we also want to make sure that learning happens with those kids who don't come to school. So I would say we accidentally created hybrid classes. Hybrid classes would be classes that are not fully closed school learning environment, but they're also not fully open. Because a lot of our students are not in school, we had to create hybrid classes for those kids, embedding them in the learning that's happening at Lancer's campus. So we've got Zoom classes where children at home and students in our classrooms are doing the same activity while the teachers are delivering the content. So we also have activities that are uploaded for the parents to support us at home during the hybrid classes. What I like about this accidental, I would say, discovery of how to make this work is that half of our parents started to learn how to use the technology. So early March, half of our parents who did not send the kids to school started learning with us how to join in a Google Classroom, how to click a Zoom call, how to join in a live class. So when the announcement for full school closure happened in the end of March, it was easier for the rest of the community to come and help each other. You've got parents helping each other how to join in the Zoom class. You've got students helping each other how to join in and upload their assessments. And teachers, of course, are very familiar with the work already. Now, we are right around the third week of April, and we have been doing our online classes full closure for the past 4 weeks now. And I can say we are very comfortable. So we have designed a parent-teacher meeting online, which will be happening in this week. And now there's another call for action for our head of school, which is our assessment protocol. In the next month, we are expected to deliver our semester assessments, our examinations, and our reporting. So again, people are talking again, how do we improve this? How do we make this happen? How do we ensure that the integrity of the assessments are happening? So there was a lot of brainstorming that happened with the management, and we said, maybe we can go ahead and do a Zoom call or a Google Meet where the children are sitting in front and they have to be live, and then we'll do the assessments that way. So I was very pleased by how so many ideas came together. And one of the most important elements that I like to share here is, yes, we can go ahead and administer assessments because our teachers are very good at that. Our schools are very good at lesson planning. Our teachers are very good at designing the learning progress of children. But bringing in the parents is something that has been an important element of this entire process. So I just want to share that in the next month, we will be inviting our parents to come in and help us be invigilators and proctors for assessment. Of course, right now we're still communicating that to our parents. We are still informing and training them how to help us with that process. But I'm sure that in the next month, by the end of our academic session, and when we do our semester assessments, we are convinced of the integrity of the assessment protocol and assessment procedures. Now, with regards to the last element, which is the one that glues all of us together, that is where we always believe our community is very important to us. When they provide us the feedback from our parents or students and our teachers, we know that what we're doing is right, or what we're doing is where we are supposed to be. So here, I just want to share with you a couple of questions that we shared, I think, on the first week, and then every week then on, we send a survey out to our parents in our school community. And you can see here just a few questions that we have to ask our parents with regards to the clarity of the work to be done, the quality of the lesson materials, the teacher's level of care because of our focus on well-being. And every week we ask for the improvement from last week. So I'm very pleased that our parents are giving us a lot of ideas on how to work it out. We know that there are also some parents who will have to share technology technology resources at home, and how do we help them and supplement that so that every child is reached throughout this journey. I'm just to end the case study from Lancers International School. It's really important that there's a cycle of reflection, choice, and action as we go through anything. Even though I'm just sharing with you an example of how we dealt with this issue, this action cycle is very much relevant in everything that we have to do throughout our journey. And it's also relevant to focus on the well-being of our community, the little ones, because I'm working with the babies and the children. It's important that I embed the well-being of my little ones and our children at the school and their parents in whatever we do at the school. So with this, we realize that we are still progressing with academic expectations. We are bringing more resilience into our program, and of course, mindfulness is always there to help us come together as a community. So I hope I was able to share that with you.
Yes, yes. I think that's a very, very useful presentation, because our audience has seen something in action, that how a responsible school is able to meet the challenges posed by COVID-19, how it has embraced online learning, how the continuity of learning has been established. But now, translating this into the larger skill and education agenda, building a future agenda, let me bring Dr. Venkatesh Sunkad here in again. And Dr. Sunkad, please give us a sense of, I hear a lot of skill deficit. I hear that a lot of people, a lot of reports, including the trade chamber reports, they mention that graduates are not ready, students are not ready. And I have with me here you, Mr. Jayadeva, and Miss Annabelle. I'm going to get back to each one of you, but let me begin with you. What is this entire discussion about people not being ready is about? So over to you.
Thanks, Dr. Sharma. It's a very relevant question, and I think that has been something that all of us have been hearing, right? If you just look at the 90s, right, when the whole software industry or the technology boom that happened in India, you see that most of the Indians were doing the software, and they said, what, that is where the future is, and India is going to be the next big technological powerhouse and things like that. But suddenly in the late 2000, you're seeing that there is this reskilling needs to be done. This whole deficit needs to be done. The question is, what has happened is, to be fair, first of all, the world has changed. In what sense does the world change, and how we should prepare our students is the question. The world has changed in the sense that what was basically the revolution of this data science has brought up basically for all the students to learn new skills that traditionally the schools were not catering to. Traditionally, the regular education that we were taught, that we said basically that addition, subtraction, multiplication is what you need to know, or good handwriting is what you need to know. That has changed. The skill set that you need now is a little different from what the skill set that 10 years back an engineer had to live. So I think the schools have slowly need to adapt for this skill set. This skill set being first of all learning basic fundamentals of data science, learning the new technologies that are coming, and how our syllabus should also change. And I feel very strongly that it has to change from the high school level. What's happening is, if we don't change it at the high school level, then sometimes it may be too late to change it at the college level. So I think we have to sort of look inwardly, both and from a government perspective, they're also working on it. And also from, career perspective, we need to make sure that it happens at the high school level, not just, that we just give them education, but, make it more practical oriented. And we can talk about it, as, Kishore and Ms. Annabelle has said, that, this has to be an integrated learning part of the education system.
Right. I think let me, before I get back to you once again, Dr. Sunkel, let me ask Kishore this question that because he is an executive sitting in the industry, so I want to bring first him in and then understand that what are those skills? And if you can explain to us in a somewhat simple manner as to these are the mathematical abilities, logical abilities, what are the generic skills the industry is looking at, so that two of my educator panelists, both Dr. Sunkar and Ms. Annabelle, can respond that how and what can they make sense of what the industry is looking at. Kishore, I am requesting you to provide us a perspective on that.
Sure, definitely. Thank you. So first of all, like when it comes to the analytics world, when it comes in the primary educations, that is, high school or in the college level, it is better the students will get exposed to the mathematics first. Mathematics is a very much needed skills, combined with statistics. Then later on, since it's a programmatic world, they also should get exposed to some of the programming languages like a Python or those kind of stuff. And also, like, I don't want to undermine the fundamentals of C, Java, C++, this kind of stuff. So when it comes to the data science, these are the core skills that is required. And apart from that, business skills are very much needed, but at the same time, they are going to pick up that knowledge when they come into the industry or in the, the MBA level, etc. But during the curriculum, it is better the schools adopt mathematics, statistics, and some of the machine learning aspects, the fundamentals of it, so that the students will be ready when they come into the industry, so that they will be able to face the real world challenges.
Right. Right. So I think that's also a very clear articulation by Jaidev that this is what the industry is looking at. And I also want to refer to what Dr. Sunkar just mentioned, the Industry 4.0 or the gig economy, what we hear most often in popular parlance. Given all of this, what Kishore just now said, and what are the new ways of work, new ways of jobs? Given all this, let me first invite Dr. Sunkar that how are you preparing future graduates? Taking all this into account, what is your way of addressing this challenge? Dr. Sunkar.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. So there are a couple of things that I think you need to do. Just to add what Mr. Jaideva said, there is one more aspect I would like to add for high school, especially for the high school to learn, and that is the liberal education piece of it. See, a lot of us think that, the technology part of it is very critical, but I am a very, very strong believer in addition to the technology, it is the liberal education, the combination of liberal education and technology is what going to make, especially in tomorrow's gig economy, a very successful candidate, either for a career in terms of working for any company, or if he or she wants to start their own business. I feel the liberal arts education is as important in addition to that, because liberal arts education makes a student think. And that is very, very critical in most of the new technologies that are coming today. Now, coming back to answer your question, how should we prepare the students? There are a couple of ways I feel that the students can be prepared. One of the ways that I think I'm a very strong believer is basically one of the most common things that we do in high school, especially when we teach, is more of a theoretical part of it. I would like to see more of sort of the practical aspects of it also. So for example, I think, most schools have some form of, data science, some form of artificial intelligence, and that's been mostly from a theoretical perspective, or when you teach technology or something. If we can add the hands-on piece of it, when we actually make the students do some real life projects, make some students do real life things, they will be then, then they will be much more easier for them to sort of cope up with the tomorrow's challenges if they start doing the hands-on piece of it at a very early stage. So that way, I feel that it's very important that we add the liberal education and the hands-on piece of it to make it a successful journey.
Right. Let me take the same question to Miss Annabelle. That how is Lancers International making use of these opportunities? How are you preparing your future graduates, your future students, your current students for the future who will go on to make careers in data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these areas. So how is Lancers International integrating these challenges or demands of the industry into the curriculum, into the pedagogies? Over to you, Miss Annabelle.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. It is important for us to make real life connections in our classroom setting. So what we do at Lancers is we have assessments, I would say results of the learning that happens in the classroom that focus on the application of that in real life settings. So you've got little children trying to create things or solve problems of real life situations like we've got summative assessments that focus on sustainability or helping our environment, and all the way up to grade 5 doing a PYP exhibition on sustainable development goals of the United Nations. In senior school, you've got personal projects where children talk about important elements of their learning, whether from being an apprentice or being an entrepreneur to being an artist, and all the way to becoming a lawyer or a doctor. So they're able to create scenarios where, even though we say it is just in the classroom environment, they are actually playing out or role playing what is it like in the real life situation. In diploma, it's important for our grade 12 students to write extended essay that has a very important focus on the well-being of the human race. So that can be any issue or concern that is relevant to the student. What we want to highlight here is relevance more than the delivery. We also want the children to take action, and as per our mission statement, to make our lives better as human beings. And without creating avenues for children to do this, is a presentation or a role play or a PowerPoint or an online or website, or even a product that they would like to share with the community, they will not be able to apply what we are teaching them. There are elements of the school that also embed design thinking. And one of our co-curricular activities at the school, actually, the ABLE program at Lancers from grade 1 to grade 12, focus on design protocol. So every child, by the end of every semester, should look at something that is relevant to them, anything, whether it's from media and technology or STEM education or public speaking and the arts. They will have to provide an application of their semester's learning by the end of that semester for an exhibition. It looks like play for our little ones, for our children at the school. It looks like they're just playing, but the teachers and the curriculum embed design thinking into their classroom, so that the children, when they leave grade 11 and grade 12 and they go to university, they would go, oh, we've done something similar. But I remember having fun when I was doing that because I was playing with my friends, but all along I was actually helping solve world issues through the Sustainable Development Goals. So Dr. Sharma, that is one thing that is relevant in the schools, that they ensure that applications of the learning happen in any way that is relevant to the children first. And of course, in its essence, the children need to know that they are helping out in the greater good.
Right. So that's a bit of a discussion about the technical skills or technical knowledge to be acquired, whether it is about mathematics, statistics, or computing. But there is a lot to be said about the non-tech side, the human side of the new jobs. I'm going to pose this question to all three of you, and starting with Kishore, and then I'll come to my friends who are into education, who are into the business of education. that, Kishore, first to you, that what are the special attributes, human side of the new tech jobs, which, for example, the jobs are no longer 9 to 5. Jobs are no longer in hierarchical organizations. You can work from home, and it is not just about COVID-19. The nature of the jobs is shifting. So there is a lot to be understood about the human side of the jobs, whether at the individual level or at the societal level. So give us a sense of those challenges, as to what are the human challenges of the new kind of jobs in gig economy. Over to you, Kishore.
So thank you. The human side challenges is especially when we talk about the future of work. What is going to happen is leaders should have the data and data models that are needed for the AI tools. Why I am telling this particular thing? Because the future workforce will comprises of not only the humans, but also the artificial intelligence tools. So the tool is a tool, but it has to be driven by the data. So having the understanding of the data and the data models is very important. Okay. Now, when it comes to the human side, so what we need to be ready is, we need to know what are the decisions that a human can make and what are the decisions that the algorithms can make. So here, the role of the human beings or the leaders comes into prominence. So the leaders have to be more of a mobilizers and enablers here. In the current or the olden ages, what we were doing is managers are mainly taking care of the operational tasks. So those operational tasks is going to go away, if not the sooner but later. So the managers' roles will become a kind of a different. So that means to say that they will become more of a mobilizers and enablers. Having said that one, they should be able to ask the right questions. And there will be a cultural shift because of this, because your team is comprises of not only the machines, but also the human beings as well as the machines. So the leaders have to bring the people along, so that there should be a lot of emotional intelligence. Then a lot of critical thinking is very much necessary. Even the creativity matters a lot. Then the moral judgment is very much essential, and also concerns related to the data protections and the stuff which machines cannot think of, but we as human beings can think of. So these are the areas which are related to the human part. The humility is very important here. So the humility and creativity, these are very essential skills. But I also would like to say that, two fundamentals won't change. One is lead by example. And second one is look out for the welfare of your subordinates. So these are the two fundamentals that is not going to change.
Right. Let me take this question now first to Ms. Vellamaran, that as to how you are preparing your students to meet this human challenge. And also there is a question from Flo Fernandez, that have you seen any negative impact on in-class attendance by making same lecture available in both in-class and home students? I hope you can answer both the questions in one go. Over to you.
Right. Okay, thank you, Dr. Sharma. So the second question, I'm reading it right now from Ms. Fernandez. It is really different when you are in the classroom and when you are doing it online. I'm sure that all of the teachers around the world would share the same perspective with me, that we want to go back to the classroom. We want to go back and be able to see the children again, because there's just the difference of connection that we have when we are in the classroom and when we are online. You can basically just see me in 2D, but in the classroom you would see the children, and they would be able to share with you more truthfully, I would say, if they have any issues or concerns. And there are barriers of technology that has been prevalent throughout, since everybody's online. technical glitches happen so frequently, and you really get annoyed when you cannot be heard, or when the kids cannot share what they want to share with you. And sometimes it just passes, and sometimes they'll forget what they want to share with you because the technical glitches happen in between. And that is always going to happen now. But the most important thing for us is to help our children understand as much as we can that this is the new norm, and how to be able to help them do that is the consistency of our approach. We believe, like what Dr. Sugad said, it is important that the children understand that there's humanity in it, but at the same time they should also realize that there are tools that are required for them to reach that. This is where the school comes in. The school will have to help children with their study skills. We have to help them with their thinking skills. We have to give them and provide them the tools that they can use at their age group to make sense of it all. Because in as much as we give them whatever is required, they're still the ones who would need to take that action. They will still be the one to make a choice. They will still be the one to apply the learning again. But what we do is we give them as much tools as we want. It's like building a toolbox for the students to use. And we trust that they will be able to choose the best tool for the scenario or the context that they are at. And if we do not provide them with all those opportunities to apply it and make mistakes, they will not be able to do an excellent job in the future.
Right. Dr. Sunkar, your perspective on developing the human side to meet the technical challenge.
Yeah, so definitely I will answer this, Dr. Sharma. And before that, I think we see a couple of questions on people asking that, what happens on the rural side of things?
Yes.
I'm in a rural places, what should I do? And that's a very, very relevant question that people are asking. Let me answer it in what I think, and I'll definitely ask then, Mr. On all other two panelists to definitely answer that question. And then I will answer the second part of it, because I see there is a link there. The answer to that, first of all, that's a very good question. The question is, and I think people can see that, is they're asking that online education works very well probably in tier 1 and tier 2 cities, because there's a huge amount of internet connectivity. So for example, the way we are talking, right, the amount of internet connectivity, I'm talking from my home, I'm assuming some of them are in their school, but the type of internet connectivity we have here is amazing. Connect to, I'm sure there's a lot of tier 3, tier 4 towns where hardly you find any internet connectivity, or very, what should I say, less internet connectivity. So the question answer is, so does online education work? Yes and no. And let me explain to that, what does I mean by saying yes and no? And definitely the other two panelists can definitely, I think, can pitch in on that. So the question here is, see what is happening, and this is something I really want to say, because, the town that actually I am from, this is obviously I'm speaking from Bangalore, but my parents and basically from a really tier 2 or tier 3 town. Yes, every individual house, they don't have an internet connectivity. What they're trying to do, some towns and some village, are basically saying, can we do it at a village level? That means to say they're assembling all the students to a particular place where internet connectivity is possible, and they're trying to understand that, hey, instead of me going into everybody's houses, I know there is social distancing, we'll at least, try to do it at a point, but at least sort of they're trying to do it. I understand that there's the challenges of social distancing and everything that's happening, but they're trying to work it out that way. So they're trying to come up with some innovative things, especially nowadays with the phones, even in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, the internet connectivity is good. I'm not saying it's great, but it's much better than what it was 2 to 3 years ago. So they're trying to sort of, work on that with its own challenges. So that is, in fact, that doesn't, and also in what there's a project called Bharat Fiber. I'm sure, most of you must have heard of it, where they really pushed the internet fidelity to the towns, in fact, in tier 3 and tier 3 towns. So will that change? So maybe probably 2 to 3 years from now, it can be a different ball game. But definitely, I think, that is a very good question. And I think that is something that I think is the next phase where, this thing, that needs to be tackled. Because I don't think until now, we were forced to really look at online education at such a massive level in India. And I think this has given us that opportunity. Unfortunate situation, no question about it, but still it has given that opportunity to look into it. And I'm sure, that will be looked into. Coming back to your question, Dr. Sharma, of, how is the gig economy changing the worker? I completely agree with the two panelists that it's going to change. There are two pieces that are going to do. I'll talk from a, what should I say, an individual or basically an employee level and from a leader perspective. From an employee perspective, I think one thing is for sure, the future is what can be automated will be automated. I'm sure people are hearing to that, but it's going to be rapidly. So what you need to do as an employer or as an employee is you need to learn the skills. And these are skills that are very, very sort of, what sometimes machines can't do. What are those skills? Not that, basic programming skills are you need to know, but more of, the higher cognitive skills. What does it mean? When I see data, for example, right, how do I analyze data? How do I come up with conclusions? That's what the businesses are looking for in data science. Hey, I have the sales data. My sales are going down. A machine can run all kinds of algorithms, but it's the human that can say, you know what, hey, listen to me. These are the factors that are actually driving down the data. A machine sometimes will not be able to put things together that way. The visualization part of it, that is what I think you need to learn. The second thing, I think Kishore brought it up, very important going forward, is the ethics part of it. What data I can access, what data I cannot access, which is now giving to a lot of new careers which never existed before. So for example, if you look at law, the entire ethics part of it, the privacy part of it is now giving you a brand new scheme in law which never existed, probably 10 years back. Similarly, for example, now they're allowing this autonomous cars and things like that. Now there is whole new aspect of, an autonomous car, let's say, crashes to another human being. Who is responsible? Is it the manufacturer responsible or the owner responsible? Owner might say tomorrow, hey, I did not touch the car. So there is a lot of these new age items that are coming in that were never existing earlier. Now drones are coming in, people are saying, what do I allow? What do I not allow? So there's a huge new branches of science that are coming in, which never existed. So I would say, in this gig economy, not just going into, your traditional jobs, but there are a lot of new jobs that are coming up, which you never existed. And that's, I think we need to, this is where I think the high school and the schooling education should help them to sort of the kids to expose them to these new avenues, these new jobs, and expose them and to say, you know what, traditionally engineering and medicine were the two fields that everybody needs to go to. But these are the things, life sciences, now with the virus and everything, life sciences is taking its own new thing. So I think high schools should now slow off, do this, and I think that would be really helpful to the students to get the avenue for these new jobs that didn't exist, 5 years ago.
Right. Can I take this question to now Miss Annabelle, that in terms of future of education, we are seeing that lot of we have had good discussion now until now. What are the challenges? What are the new skills which the markets are looking at, and how Dr. Sunkar mentioned how the human and non-tech side of human and tech side of it has to be addressed. Let me now take you to the last segment of this webinar, where let us talk of the future preparations. And I want to first begin with Dr. Sunkar, and then to our audience who are educators, please give us a sense of in terms of concrete degrees. I understand that in terms of generic description, we have discussed what do we need to do. But in terms of specific degrees, what are the kind of degrees which hold the future, so to say? We need to understand this in a slightly clearer terms, so that not only you but other educators can understand that these are the kind of skills and degrees which hold the future. Okay, if I can have a very crisp and clear answer to that.
Thanks, Dr. Sharma. So I think the first thing is, once the student decides like that, I need to basically what my future looks like, there are a couple of avenues you need to do. One of the avenues that the student needs to basically do is basically after I do my high school education, let's say when I use the word high school, I mean 12th. After I do my 12th education, what do I need to do? If so, there are multiple avenues, and let me give you a quick. So for example, if you want to, let's say, pursue a degree in engineering, because, or, basically if you're interested in that piece of it, you need to find an organization, and an organization that actually combines your technical education with a liberal arts education. which I think is very, very important. The reason why you need to combine these two education is because that is how you make basically, as I feel, a successful, what should I say, a society-ready candidate or a society-ready human being. And for that, you need to pick organizations or institutions. One of that I really come to mind and which I'm associated with, and I'm happy to say, is the Vijay Bhumi University. Vijay Bhumi University, which is called probably India's first liberal professional university, basically combines, every student is made to learn the technology piece of it. In addition to the technology, they are forced to learn business, arts, law, and everything to give them the 360 education. So that is one avenue if you want to go into the engineering piece of it. Similarly, you need to pick, if you're interested in the law and economic side of it, you need to pick a degree that actually law gives you the, basically the law degree, not in a traditional, criminal law, or basic law, but these new areas where you can specialize in. And that I think is also another way which I think, Vijay Bhumi sort of can help you out. So these are, for example, or if you want to do it in management, do it in a management where you have an understanding of both the business side of it and the data science of it. So I think you need to pick institutions that can actually cater to your needs in these, sort of, I would say, traditional but upcoming sort of areas.
Right. And since we are talking to you, Dr. Sunkar, I have a quick follow-up question, which is coming from Mr. Jagdaman saying that how are you meeting the challenge of the faculty? Because that's also one of the critical challenges. And I think if you can give us a very, very quick answer on that, how are you meeting that challenge?
Definitely. And that's a very good question. So the only way to meet the faculties, there are two ways, guys. It's sort of train the trainer kind of a thing. You need to sort of, make sure that I see a lot of schools are what they're doing from a high school perspective are basically associating themselves with other organizations to come and teach them this. But what I would say is definitely do that initially, but at least pick 4 or 5 of your faculty and sort of let them train them and have that sort of the training thing. I understand within your organization, because I feel in the long run, that would be much better in terms of, doing it at a high school level. From what should I say, the organizations but there are some organizations that are dedicated to data science, like the organization I'm representing in Sophie, where we have 15 PhDs in data science. But at the high school level, what I would say is start with associating yourself with organizations, but then try to start basically train the trainers kind of a thing. Start training your teachers, because that will in the long run pay a lot more benefit, because teachers understand the domain, as Ms. Annabelle was saying, they understand what the students need, and also when they learn this, that will be a good combination.
Right. Let me take this to Ms. Annabelle and also pose a question to her from Dr. Vivek Patil that, so one is not Dr. Patil, I think that's the question I would like to pose to Mr. Jayadeva, but to Ms. Annabelle, I have a question that will the physical schooling system change? And then what change do you envision, Ms. Annabelle?
I think it would. I think it's important that we incorporate what we have learned right now with what is. I think it's important that we incorporate what we've learned right now with our schools. We know that this uncertainty has helped us train our teachers overnight. We have started asking teachers to really do an excellent job in doing online learning, and many of them agree that this is something that we will embed in our future schooling. We know that there will be moments where the children can proceed and extend their learning beyond the 8 hours of the day in the classroom, and we already have that in many schools, having online platforms. What we now want to do is extend that further with developing programs online for the children to pursue, like a project-based online activity where they can go back to their online classroom at the same time, go back to the classroom and discuss the projects with their teachers. We should not let it stop, right? This entire experience that we have at the moment, when my teachers started creating their own material online, there's that level of excitement that in addition to knowing the technicalities of things, they also felt a sense of, I would say, worth. And this is something that you cannot teach. So when the children create material and be able to deliver that to a wider community, and I just want to share that we had an exhibition that we had to share with the entire world, where over 100 students and teachers from different parts of the world join in. The students presenting in front, and there was a child from Turkey who asked him a question. That is the learning that resulted from that experience is something that we cannot simply replicate in an online, in a face-to-face classroom. So those kinds of moments, teachable moments, we want to take advantage of, and we want to continue to deliver the message to a lot more people than just the students within our classroom. So we want to extend schools to schools collaboration, where children will develop projects with each other. Maybe we can have an online site where it will become a main platform for them to collaborate and continue on with the projects, not just for a day, for a homework, or a night, but maybe for 4 weeks or beyond. But the whole idea is creativity, communication, and critical thinking, so that they also collaborate with those children and keep extending the learnings that they have experienced. I know that there will be issues with regards to technologies, and there will always be those issues, but I know that many people in the world, they look at data and they improve on it. And I can only imagine how it's going to be like in the next 2 months. Just the past 1 month, there's just a lot of new technologies that started to come up, and our teachers are overwhelmed now of how to implement them and use them. So I can only imagine what's going to happen in the next 2 months for our schools. But I am absolutely sure that it will never be the same as before. And the
Right.
parents, I just wanted to share that the parents are always, because they were not educated like this, they also do not know what's going to happen in the future. And we tell them that no one knows what's going to happen, and how you were educated is going to change. It's going to be totally different for the next academic session, that's for sure. At least I'm speaking on behalf of Lancers International School. We will be embedding a lot of the things that we are already currently doing, and maybe we could do a hybrid classroom already, like what I mentioned a while back.
Right. And let me go back to Mr. Kishore Jayadeva for the last word, because the output of schools and universities is input for you, Mr. Jayadeva. And please give us a final word, because you are there in the industry. You know what are the jobs which are emerging. You have also heard the two educators. What is the preparedness we have? And we want to hear from you. How does the future look like? Give us a sense so that we can close the webinar on a confident note.
Sure, definitely. I would like to answer it in two ways. The first one is, there is a business problem, and there are tools and technologies, and merging and bringing together these two things so that the end user will get benefited is one of the challenges that we are facing. Of course, like the graduates who comes after the colleges will be well versed in the programming languages or any of the new tools and techniques. But when we come into the real world, what is going to happen is the business problems are drastically different, and they will be posed in different ways and in different forms. And the challenge here is to understand that particular business and what that particular problem is, and to come up with an amicable solution using whatever the technologies that we have got, whether it's a data science or a visualization techniques or big data technologies. So that is where one of the challenges exist. And more effectively you do that particular part, and the more effective professional you are. Very easy to say that one, but when you jump into the field, when you talk to the business leaders, the end users, the SBU heads, this gets very complex. And the challenge lies is breaking the problem into various pieces and attaching solutions to that one, ideas to that particular thing, and assembling it. And once you assemble that particular solution, it should be palatable to the business community. That is one of the challenges. The second one is, it is basically our technology is growing very fast. That means to say that new languages, new programming languages comes into picture quite often. Very new tools and technologies comes into picture. So one day we talk about Hadoop, and next day we talk about Spark, and tomorrow we talk about something else. So the technology is changing very fast. And even for the technology people, I mean, the industry professional, it becomes very difficult to keep a pace with the changing technologies. But at the same time, it is very important for us when you think in terms of business, because the profitability and the competitiveness is very important here. So we need to keep in pace with the changing technologies, learn it faster, and unlearn some of the things very fast, because the older technology doesn't make much sense in the newer age. So these are some of the challenges and some of the highlights that I would like to bring.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. I think we have overshot the time by a few minutes, but I must say it has been, and as you can see from the chat, the observations and comments in the chat box, it has been a truly enlightening, truly useful, and a very, very helpful session where three of you have given a very, very helpful perspective to our participants, a realistic executable toolkit, so to say. I cannot thank you enough, three of you. Thank you, Kishore Jadeva. Thank you, Dr. Sunkar. Thank you, Miss Annabelle. Thank you for your time and energy and clarity you have brought to this session. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.